Welcome to This Explainer. All right, I want you to close your eyes for just a second and picture the scene. The deafening roar of the stadium has totally faded. The bright, blinding floodlights of the world's absolute biggest sporting stage are powering down. The final whistle has blown on Cristiano Ronaldo's FIFA journey. Millions, literally millions of viewers around the globe just witnessed the raw, unfiltered disappointment of a global icon. We all saw the immediate aftermath right there on the pitch, the heavy shoulders, the incredible weight of a nation's expectations just crashing down in real time. But here's the thing. As the broadcast ends and all those screens go dark, this profound silence takes over. That loud, chaotic public spectacle instantly transforms into a very quiet, very private reality. And that brings us to this incredibly fascinating question. We spend so much time analyzing the tactics, the missed shots, the absolute physical exhaustion of these elite players, but when the cameras finally turn off and the locker room completely empties out, who is there to pick up the pieces? Who helps a football legend heal? The shift from being this global superhuman to just a vulnerable human being, well, it happens in the absolute blink of an eye. So today, we're shifting our focus away from the millions watching the disappointment, and instead, we're looking closely at those unseen moments and the invisible support system that takes over the second the athletic armor comes off. Okay, let's dive into this with Section 1, when the final whistle blows and the pain of defeat on the biggest stage. To really understand the healing, we first have to acknowledge the absolute reality of this pain. Look, on one hand, we see the massive public spectacle, right? The trophies won, the seemingly impossible records broken, the millions watching every single step. This is the hyper-visible reality of a player like Cristiano Ronaldo. We kind of just expect invincibility. But on the flip side, there's the private reality. And the reality is, no matter how many accolades you have stacked up in the trophy cabinet, defeat is painful. Losing on football's biggest stage hurts, and it hurts deeply. It's a sobering thought, isn't it? The exact same shoulders that carry the cheers of millions also have to carry the absolute crushing silence of a devastating loss. It really reminds us that beneath the records and the fame, there's a human being experiencing a very real, very heavy sorrow that we, the public, only ever get a fleeting glimpse of. Which brings us to Section 2, the hidden healing process, and what happens behind closed doors. Because honestly, while fans and pundits can sit in television studios and speculate for hours upon hours about what a player is thinking, true healing, it doesn't happen in a press conference. Now, what's really interesting about this is how it grounds us in a fundamental truth about empathy. Only Ronaldo and those absolutely closest to him know exactly how he feels. The difficult, messy, totally vulnerable moments of recovery aren't broadcast in 4K resolution. They're intimately shared only with family. We see the cheers on the pitch, sure, but we definitely don't see the quiet, heavy conversations on the private flight home or the silence in the living room the morning after. The actual, real-world processing of that massive disappointment is a sanctuary, and it's guarded by those who know the actual man, not just the myth. Moving on to Section 3, Georgina's crucial support role, the foundation of resilience. Because when you face a completely devastating moment, having a loved one there to intercept the fall can make an unbearable burden just a little easier to carry. They become the absolute foundation of an athlete's resilience. Throughout the years, Georgina has been this highly visible presence, right? Supporting him from the stands, celebrating his absolute highest highs. But that public support, that's barely the tip of the iceberg. She seamlessly bridges the gap between his grand public achievements and his profound need for private comfort. When the cheers stop, she is the constant that remains. The exact same person who celebrates the broken records is the person who sits with him through the incredibly painful sting of elimination. So how exactly does that support manifest? Well, it's actually a very deliberate, multi-step emotional recalibration. First, she helps shift his focus entirely away from the disappointment. The mind of an elite athlete is wired to obsess over every single missed pass, but a partner helps break that negative spiral. Second, she encourages family time with the kids. And this is such a powerful grounding technique, literally moving him physically and emotionally from the high-stakes pitch back to the innocent, pure joy of the playroom. Third, simply prioritizing rest. And finally, the ultimate goal, to smile again. You see, this isn't just casual comfort. It's a highly strategic, loving intervention perfectly designed to remind a global icon of his own humanity. So the crucial point really comes down to this mindset shift. One result doesn't define a lifetime of greatness. Let's just sit with that for a second.
It is so unbelievably easy, both for the athlete going through it and for us watching at home, to get total tunnel vision on the most recent failure. The final whistle of one tournament can literally feel like the final judgment of an entire career. But a supportive partner is there to widen the lens, to remind him of the lifetime of sheer dedication, the absolute mountains already climbed, and the legacy that is already secured. One painful night absolutely does not erase years of brilliance.
And this specific dynamic really opens up a much broader perspective for us. Section 4. Beyond just physical recovery, healing the mind and body. We always talk about sports science, ice baths, and physiotherapy, but true recovery, it's a dual process. And this brilliantly illustrates that exact point. Physical recovery is about resting the battered body after the match. And look, we've basically mastered the science of letting those muscles heal. But emotional recovery? That is about finding peace with the result, rebuilding shattered confidence, and somehow unlocking the motivation to wake up and train all over again after a completely devastating loss. For elite athletes, you simply cannot have one without the other. Treating the physical toll is literally only half the battle. The emotional strength to move forward, that is where the real struggle, and honestly, the real healing actually takes place. As we kind of zoom out from the specifics of football, we reach our final chapter, Section 5, the greatest victory of all, and what truly matters. This story really connects to a much larger, completely universal takeaway. It challenges all of us to redefine what winning actually means in the grand scheme of a human life. Let's see how this builds. Looking at the standard timeline of any athlete, we see this totally undeniable sequence. Step 1, football matches, even the biggest ones in the world, they eventually end. The clock always runs out. Step 2, careers eventually end. Father Time is totally undefeated, and those boots will one day be hung up for good. But step 3, family remains. The love, the shared history, that core support system, that outlasts any tournament, any multi-million-dollar contract, and any physical capability. Careers eventually end. Family remains. I really want you to think about this in the context of your own life for a moment. Because we all have our own version of the pitch, don't we? We all have our high-stakes projects, our intense career ambitions, our personal tournaments where we pour in all our energy. And yeah, sometimes we face agonizing defeats. When our professional or personal pursuits just don't go the way we planned, the exact same rule applies. The jobs change, the accolades fade away, but the people who sit with us in those quiet, heavy moments after a loss, they are the permanent fixtures. Which leaves us with this final, incredibly important thought. When the cameras of your life turn off, when you've left it all on the field and the dust finally settles, when your final whistle blows, who is your greatest victory? Take a moment today to really appreciate those who help you heal. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I genuinely hope it gives you something meaningful to reflect on today.